Hollywood loves beaches, and Hollywood even loves boardwalks. But sometimes the places you see on screen aren't exactly where you think they are. Welcome to Pop Culture Passport, your ultimate guide to quirky and cool destinations across the US. I'm your host, Beth Scalacci, aka the Roman Yeti, here to help you dive into the world of theme parks, uncover film and TV locations, and explore quirky museums, roadside attractions, and legendary venues that capture the heart and soul of this unique country. So grab your pop culture passport and let's discover destinations that resonate with your interest, not just with what's trending on social media. Are you ready? Let's roam! Welcome back. Today we're visiting California, New York, New Jersey, and even a Brooklyn parking lot to discover the real locations behind some of our favorite movies and television shows. Now, this all came about because I was preparing for my interview with Kiara from Atlantic City, and I was doing some research on filming locations for Boardwalk Empire. You know, the show literally set on the Atlantic City Boardwalk. But I learned it wasn't filmed in Atlantic City, but on a 300-foot boardwalk set in a Brooklyn parking lot. Of course, that one discovery sent me down, my usual rabbit hole about what was and wasn't filmed on beaches and boardwalks. So, beaches and boardwalks have always been part of Hollywood's storytelling toolkit. Sometimes they play themselves, sometimes they play somewhere else entirely, and sometimes, like in Empire Boardwalk, they don't exist at all. So let's take a look at some of the most memorable beaches and boardwalks in films and televisions and, some stories behind them. So we're going to start out west at the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. California's oldest surviving amusement park has, well, let's just say a secret double life. By day, the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk is exactly what you'd expect. Cotton candy, kids, smell of sunscreen, and the sound of the 1924 Great Dipper roller coaster rattling overhead. It's cheerful, it's nostalgic, it's the kind of place that makes you feel like summer will last forever. And then the sun goes down. In 1987, director Joel Schumacher chose this very boardwalk as the setting for The Lost Boys, a vampire horror film starring Kiefer Sutherland, Jason Patric, and the two Coreys. Yes, there was a movie before the Broadway musical. So the 1911 Louvre Carousel, which is still spinning today, is where Sutherland's vampire gang makes their entrance in one of the film's opening scenes. The Great Dipper looms in the background of countless nighttime shots, and even the comic book shop where the Frog Brothers hold court was just a few blocks away. Though the production did dress a nearby store to make it look like it was part of the boardwalk, it really wasn't. What makes Santa Cruz even more interesting is that the boardwalk now totally leans into its vampire legacy. And every summer they screen The Lost Boys right there on the beach, which sounds so much fun. Um, you can watch vampires terrorize the boardwalk while sitting on the sand, exactly where it was filmed. And then Jordan Peele showed up in 2019 with Us and proved that the Santa Cruz Boardwalk still knows how to be deeply unsettling, even without a single vampire in sight. So, if Santa Cruz is the cheerful boardwalk with a dark side, well, maybe Coney Island is the boardwalk that wears its darkness proudly. This is New York at its most iconic. The Cyclone roller coaster, the Wonder Wheel, Nathan's famous hot dogs, that salt air, the noise, and the beautiful chaos of it all. Coney Island has been pulling New Yorkers to the water's edge since the 1800s. And it has been pulling filmmakers there almost as long. In 1979, director Walter Hill used Coney Island as the home turf of the Warriors, a gang trying to make their way back from the Bronx through hostile New York City territory in one night. The opening shot of the film is the Wonder Wheel at night, which is still there and still spinning. The famous final scene, Warriors Come Out to Play, was filmed right on Regalman Boardwalk. And here's a little fun behind the scenes detail. During the production, real Coney Island gangs were not pleased about actors wearing gang colors in their neighborhood. The cast had to remove their costumes before leaving set every single day. Then in 2000, director Darren Aronofsky, who actually grew up in nearby Brighton Beach, used Coney Island as the backdrop for Requiem for a Dream, one of the most devastating films ever made about addiction. The boardwalk, the steeplechase pier, the faded grandeur of a now demolished Thunderbolt roller coaster, all of it perfectly mirrors the slow collapse at the heart of the story. And then there's Nathan's Famous, found right there on Surf Avenue in 1916 and a background staple of New York filmmaking ever since. If you go to Coney Island and you don't have a hot dog at Nathan's, does it even count? So moving on, we're heading to Jersey. And if you've ever listened to Springsteen, you already know about Asbury Park, even if you've never been there. This is the town that has lived many lives, a glamorous Victorian resort, a city in decline, a place of urban renewal, and through all of it, it's been a canvas for storytelling. The faded architecture, the haunting convention hall, the boardwalk that feels like it's holding on to something. Directors keep coming back because Asbury Park looks like it has a story to tell, even without those cameras rolling. So Tony Soprano knew it. In one of The Sopranos' most celebrated episodes, the surreal funhouse dream sequence, the Asbury Park Convention Hall and Boardwalk provided the backdrop for Tony's subconscious unraveling. It's the perfect choice. The grandeur that slightly past its prime, the beauty that's a little broken, and it was a very Tony Soprano. Then Mickey Rourke brought his own kind of broken to Asbury Park in The Wrestler, using the boardwalk's gray winter atmosphere to mirror his character's emotional desolation. No sunshine version of Jersey Shore here. This is the off season, the empty benches, the wind off the ocean. When studios wanted to film Deliver Me from Nowhere, somewhere cheaper, Springsteen said no. He insisted his story stayed in his New Jersey. The production transformed the Stone Pony Convention Center and the Carousel House back to their 1980s appearance, bringing Asbury Park's musical history full circle. And you know that Stone Pony, it's still there, still hosting shows. You can still stand in the same room where that legend we all know and love, Bruce Springsteen, started. Now, heading back to the West Coast. If Hollywood needed to invent a beach, it would look exactly like the stretch on the Malibu coastline. For one, Leo Carrillo State Beach, Point Dume, Westward Beach. These aren't separate locations so much as one long, glorious, wildly overworked outdoor film set running along the Pacific Coast Highway. And the list of what's been filmed there is almost impossible to believe. So even the opening of Grease was filmed there. That was filmed in Leo Carrillo State Beach. It tells you that it's an Australian beach, but they are very much in Malibu. The rock formations and sea caves gave the director exactly the visual character he wanted, and this stretch of coast has been pretending to be somewhere else ever since. In 1968, Point Dume is the location where Charleston Heston screamed at the Statue of Liberty in one of cinema's most iconic endings, the moment we discover that the planet of the apes was Earth all along. The cliffs and secluded cove are still there, still looking exactly as haunted as they did in that scene. And Tony Stark, one of our favorite Avengers, built his mansion on the Point Dume bluffs in the Iron Man films. Now, the mansion itself was totally CGI, but the dramatic headland jutting out over the Pacific Ocean is completely real. Inception washed Leo DiCaprio ashore here. Point Break was filmed here, as was The Usual Suspects. Letters from Iwo Jima, a California beach playing a Pacific Island battlefield. Even MASH used the scrubland just inland in the Santa Monica Mountains to play Korea. And this is the most film stretch of coastline in America. And on any given sunny afternoon, it just, is Malibu. So remember how I said this whole episode started with one surprising discovery? I was researching again for my Atlantic City episode, and I came across a detail that really surprised me. Boardwalk Empire, which you may know, was an HBO series that was set entirely in Atlantic City, on the boardwalk during Prohibition, but it wasn't filmed in Atlantic City. Not a single scene of it, apparently, of the boardwalk, at least. And here's why. The real Atlantic City boardwalk in 2010 looked nothing like the 1920s version the show needed. I mean, that makes sense, right? Decades of casino development, modern hotels, contemporary signage. It had pretty much completely erased the era that the show was trying to recreate. The authentic location was just too modern to play itself. So, what did production do? Well, they built their own boardwalk in a parking lot in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. A 300-foot long wooden boardwalk, complete with period storefronts, gas lamps, and period accurate details, constructed from scratch in a Brooklyn parking lot. And where the Atlantic Ocean should be, yeah, that was a massive blue screen. The ocean you see in Boardwalk Empire is completely digital. It was all added in post-production. I can't imagine. It must have been such an elaborate set construction. And it was just, sitting in a Brooklyn studio parking lot the whole time. And it's so fascinating. It just says about, place and memory that, the Atlantic City of the 20s is not there anymore. It's had that glow up. So it couldn't play itself anymore. And I think that's such an interesting thing to think about. The city had moved on, and, Hollywood had to build the place out of a memory. Which again is just so interesting to think about. Um, but sometimes Hollywood finds the perfect location, and sometimes it transforms someplace else into a familiar place from a different time. And I think that's the fun of movie magic, right? And I think it's always fun to discover where that magic took place and how it was brought to us. I think it just always brings another side of gives us the complete story. And I know not everyone loves it, but I love sort of knowing the behind the scenes as much as the front. Obviously, or I wouldn't be doing this podcast. So, with that, we're going to add another stamp to our pop culture passport. I hope this episode inspires you to get out and explore all that is quirky and cool, even in your own backyard. Please follow, download, and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. Please tell a friend and leave a review if you like what we're doing. It really does help the show to grow. You can also follow me on Instagram or Facebook. Just search for The Roaming Yeti. Keep roaming and finding your fun.